Gruesome Magazine.
Hello, once again. I am Doc Rodden even. Hey! Hello! I'm just making stuff up. Welcome
10
to
seconds in.
Heroes and Droids version of Gruesome Magazine, where we are going to look into superhero, sci-fi, Disney in action. We do all the fun stuff that isn't horror every once in a while. And when it's so awesome that we have to talk about it. And tonight we're reviewing Ahsoka episodes 1 and 2 that debuted back to back. And that more than it exceeds the qualification of doing it. So we are excited to do this. I am your host, Doc Rotten. And joining me tonight are my co-hosts, starting off with the Slattman, Chris Slattery. How you doing, sir?
I am fan-freaking-tastic. Glad to be back.
Yes, I'm glad to be back as well. But where was I? Who knows? Also joining us is award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Moore. How you doing, sir?
Is Doc Ryden? Is that your Sith name? Is that what that is?
Yes.
Okay, just checking.
We'll go with that, please.
May the force of pronunciation be with you.
May the Schwartz be with me. All right, we are going to dive into this. We have discussed many of the Star Wars shows before, and we've touched on Rebels, and we've done the what's the crew again, Christopher, that we did?
Which crew?
I've already forgotten.
We've forgotten who they were. Oh, this is going well. Thank you for joining us.
Wait, are you talking about the crew, like the Ghost crew from Rebels, or are you talking about the fact that we have
the Bad Batch?
The Bad Batch is the crew I'm talking about. Yes, we did the Bad Batch. I am so sorry. You know, you knew what was happening at the very beginning. You knew the train wreck was arriving. All right, let's get into this. What we're going to do is we're going to give you our first impression of both episodes, either together or apart. I have a feeling together will be just fine. Yeah. And after that, we'll get into a discussion, and we are going full spoilers. And then we're going to wrap things up with our score 1 to 5, either both together or separate if you feel the need. I have a feeling you won't. Excuse me. Where'd that come from? And also, we'll pick our favorite scenes, and that we will do from each episode.
Oh, gosh. I didn't even think about it that way.
Well, it feels like one big movie, though, doesn't it?
It really does.
It was like, 45, 50 minutes each? So it was, about an hour and a half movie, and yeah, we'll get into all that. My body is fighting me. Why is that happening? I don't know, but let's get into this. Slattman, sir, we're going to start off with you because you have all the Rebel knowledge, and both of us are kind of like, we know enough not to get lost. And we'll get into all that. But since you have the brains and the intelligence, we're going to go with you first. What was your first impression of Ahsoka episodes 1 and 2?
So I need to preface this by saying that I think that Rebels is probably my favorite Star Wars story.
Nice.
It's not the best Star Wars story. It's not the best made movie or show or anything like that, but it is my favorite story that has been told in the Star Wars universe, mostly because of the characters and the writing and the characters. And did I mention the characters?
The characters.
And what I can say about Ahsoka is that it feels like season 5 of Rebels, which is exactly what it needed to be. Everything just feels like one big continuation of that show. And that's enough to make me happy. It's got an intriguing plot, dope new characters. The characters that we already know and love, they have grown, but they still retain them. What makes them them, Mm-hmm. And I don't know. The score was awesome. The set design was awesome. The effects didn't look terrible, which, considering how Disney's been paying their special effects people, that's a positive thing right now.
They did look great. Oh my
God. Yeah, no, it did exactly what it needed to do. It got me intrigued with this story. It continued where Rebels left off, and it just feels like one big love letter to this series that I love.
Excellent. Excellent. Christopher G. Moore, what was your first impression of Ahsoka episodes 1 and 2?
Oh, this is I'm really happy because I think after Andor, I'm kind of happy to get back to the sort of fun Star Wars that I love. Because as much as I appreciate stuff that they did in Andor, it kind of sucked all the energy out of Star Wars for me, and it became less Star Wars and more an independent series or independent film. But yeah, I'm really loving it. I mean, it's got really great action. I mean, I think if anything, that this is the best part of it is like Dave Filoni, he is definitely one of the biggest Star Wars fans, and he's a big fan of the movies and big fan of what George Lucas created. And there's like moments in this, even from the opening shot of that first episode, where we get the famous ship going by scene, and it puts his own kind of spin on that. And then bringing these characters that we know. I mean, some of them we've already got to see, like Ahsoka, in The Mandalorian, but a lot of these characters we haven't been able to see in sort of live action form. And how do you translate that? And I think they've done a great job of it. And then it even kind of walks that line between the animated elements to the live action elements. I mean, there's stuff they did with Chopper that just made me laugh because they brought this character to life, and he feels even more, I hate to say it, more animated in live action than he was in animation. So yeah, and for me, one of the things I fell in love with Star Wars is the bad guys. I love Darth Vader. I loved Boba Fett. I love all these characters growing up back when they were bad guys. Thanks, Boba Fett. But yeah, and so now we got all kinds of new cool bad guys that I'm really excited about, whether it's these sort of bad guy droids that are fighting Ahsoka, or Baylan Skoll, I think his name is, and his apprentice, and some of the other people. Even some of the ships and stuff are really cool, and I've also have new crushes. Because Hera, man. I was like, I just like her walking by the camera. And I was like, man, Ewan McGregor, he's married to her. But anyway, yeah. So it's like this show is. Well, I'm not gonna say that, but anyway, yeah. So I've really loved Ellie. I love a lot of the sequences. I love how the story's playing out. Even the special effects, I think, is really spot on, because I think as much as I loved even like Obi-Wan and some of the stuff, that there was around the edges, some of the special effects probably had its limitations, and this one feels full on immersive in that world. And the costumes, everything's just coming together, and then we even get cameos by actors who've been in other episodes like Mandalorian, Clancy Brown, So yeah, I'm loving it so far. It's really, and like you mentioned earlier, Doc, I mean, neither of us have really been fully invested in watching Rebels, and I haven't, I think we covered like the last season of Clone Wars, but I really haven't covered a lot of the season of Clone Wars to sort of like give more details to this. But I think a lot of sometimes people are saying maybe this is like so heavy in Star Wars lords, you can't really go into it. No, I think you don't really have to have a huge knowledge of it. I think the best thing that can come from watching this, if you haven't seen the other stuff, it's going to make you more interested in seeing the stuff that kind of fills in the blanks, or fills in the edges of the story when it comes to these characters and their history with each other. But yeah, it makes me really excited, and especially as we get sort of closer to sort of Thrawn showing up later, or Ezra, or any of those other type of characters. But yeah, I'm really, as much as we want to cheer the Ahsoka and those type of characters, I do love me some bad guys. So I'm loving that. So yeah, I'm really excited. This series has really brought me back in the fold, with being excited for another Star Wars show.
Yeah, me too. I was very my anticipation for this was remarkably high. It's so much a danger that I could overhype it for myself just with the excitement alone. I am relieved that it lived up to any mountain of hype that I could, or expectation I gave on it. These 2 episodes, I like that they did them together and we got to see them back to back. It made for a very rewarding experience watching these 2 episodes because it basically puts our team together, or at least most of them, and sets it up. It's the first act, right? It's there, and it's a lot of fun. I love seeing these animated characters realized, from Rebels. We've seen a number of ancillary characters, and then one of the group showed up in Mando last season, but I don't know if that character will make it into this show or not. But they all just work so well, and there's a history to it, but they don't bog you down with exposition. They don't they don't make it so you have to know everything, and they give you just the essentials to tie the characters together with Ahsoka and Ren, Sabine, right, and General Hera's Syndulla. I can never really learn her, but anyway. She's fantastic. They all are fantastic. The boss are fantastic. What is it? What's the one character's name? The robot. It's
Chopper.
Well, Chopper was awesome. Huang. Oh, yeah. Which is it's voiced by
David Tennant.
David Tennant. Yeah, thank you. By Total Things.
Who also voiced him in Clone Wars and Rebels.
So. Oh, nice. Yeah, because that's a character, even though I've seen many of the episodes that I've either not paid attention to or forgotten or haven't seen maybe yet. But at the same time, the character is really fun and had a purpose. I like it when the characters have a purpose. And some of the discussions we'll talk about here in a second were really strong. I'll end with this. This feels more like Star Wars to me than much of the Star Wars content we've gotten since it returned. I love Mandalorian, but it kind of has its own feel to it. And Ahsoka is more Star Wars. It just feels maybe it's the lightsabers, right? Maybe it's the lightsabers, but it's the way Filoni has built this thing, the way like he introduced it. We get sort of the Star Wars scroll. It doesn't go back; it just goes up. But we get the opening scroll. We get like you said, the ship and everything. So it just immerses you into the Star Wars feel right away. And the ships look fantastic. There are scenes in both episodes where it's just top notch, amazing stuff. So I am very, very happy with this episode, these 2 episodes, and can't wait to watch the remaining 6. All right, before we get into spoilers, let's give you guys some of the gory details about what we're talking about, because we kind of skipped this up. All right, Ahsoka is on Disney Plus. This is hopefully just season 1. I'd like to have a second season already. Don't even know where this is going. Available on Disney Plus beginning August 22nd, 2023. They changed the dates in case you hadn't heard. Instead of debuting on Wednesday, they will show up at 9 p.m. Eastern time on the Tuesdays, and that is perfect. That was the greatest move I think they could have done. Episode 1 is part 1, Master and Apprentice. A valuable prisoner escapes to New Republic custody. A search for answers reunites 2 old friends. Woohoo! Episode 2.
Thank goodness. Lucasfilm, you finally got good synopsises. You finally got it.
Yep. Part 2, Toil and Trouble. Ahsoka and General Hera Syndulla travel to New Republic shipyards and make an unexpected discovery. directed by David Filoni and Steph Green, written by David Filoni. Of course, it's based on Star Wars by George Lucas. The cast includes Rosario Dawson, Natasha Bordizzo. Oh my God. Mary Lives as Winstead, Ray Stevenson, Ivanna Sakhno, Diana Lee Inosanto, David Tennant, Eman Asfandi, Clancy Brown, and Peter Jacobson. I butchered a few. All right, let's get into some spoilers. Our discussions about spoilers, because the story is there's basically, it's a hunt, right? And it even starts off kind of like Indiana Jones, finding the map, but they're looking for General Thrawn and or Ezra, depending on who you're talking to at the moment. But Thrawn is the big reason why this is urgent, because if he returns now at this time, the Empire can reignite, if you will. And these episodes give us an example of how turbulent that may be when they go to the shipyards. I thought that was a real good example of the underground of it all, if you will. So the one thing, before I turn this over to you guys, is that we get Ezra in the little help me Obi-Wan hologram kind of thing. And I kind of wish we had a little bit more. I wish we had, that's the only thing I have against this. It didn't really explain Ezra and Thrawn fully. I know what it is, but I think an outsider might be a little confused about who Thrawn and Ezra are. What do you guys think?
I think that they have given just enough information. I think that it will be explained, and they will probably explain even further, like what happened to them. But I think that they have given enough information. We know, solely based on these episodes, we know that Ezra and Sabine were close.
Yes,
we know that Ezra is with Thrawn. Maybe. We know that Thrawn is not in this galaxy. We know that Thrawn is the last remaining Grand Admiral of the Empire. I think that's all the viewers who aren't familiar with Rebels actually need to know right now.
Yeah, and that he was exiled. And
yeah, he was exiled, but they don't explain why, because I don't think anyone can explain why in universe, actually.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we need to know that. I mean, being exiled is enough. I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand with the downfall of, even if you didn't know, even though it doesn't necessarily have to do directly with the downfall of the Empire, you can assume that and you'd be fine. It's not going to affect the story negatively.
The other thing is, only other thing that we know is that a lot of people assume that Thrawn is dead, but they never confirmed his death.
Yep.
That is a line that was said.
Yep. And our one character that we saw in previously in Mandalorian that Ahsoka captured has a little bit of secrets, doesn't she, Chris?
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, we find out that I think there was people that were kind of insinuating she might be connected to, like, what was it, the Night Sisters? Is that the name?
Yeah, the Night Sisters.
Yeah, she kind of implies that she's descended of them.
No, she straight up says
she says it. That's why she used her magic.
She says that she is a descendant of the witches of Dathomir, which are the Night Sisters.
Which is why that when that first episode, when she does her Indiana Jones steal, all the statues are supposed to are reflective of that.
Mm-hmm.
But
the three sisters at least.
Yeah, so I mean, there's definitely a lot of these underlying elements that once you dig into it, even though they specifically say it at points, I think if you're definitely very knowledgeable, you're like, ooh, you're like DiCaprio meme. We're like, you know, pointing at it.
Yeah.
Sorry, that one.
But it's also nice because they give just enough. Like when she says that, oh yeah, I'm a descendant of the, blah 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 blah, and Dathomir. Like, is it Sheev? I think it's Sheev. Or Shiv, the apprentice goes, so you're a witch, and that's basically all.
Yeah.
All you need to know.
Aren't familiar with that background need to know.
Yeah, and I think when you're sort of like creating something that's based on something else, and you're trying to create something that it's still connected, it continues that story, but at the same time, for people that might not have seen it, you still have to make it sort of like add enough elements there for people to understand what's going on. And I think they did a great job, because otherwise it just becomes very over expository, and there's all this extra exposition for no reason. And I think they do a great job. At least David Filoni does a great job of sort of like telling enough for people who don't know. But then if you do know, there's a whole lot more to that, And I think there's mentions 2 times in regards to the Night Sisters, the witches of, is it Dathomir?
Dathomir, yeah.
Dathomir. There's 2 mentions of that in the episode. So yeah, I think they do a really great job. Also, I did want to tie into what you're saying earlier, Doc, about this feels like the most Star Wars. I mean, it feels Star Wars, but also it feels like it's doing its own thing too, because that scroll,
That's true.
The opening scroll was in red. So it wasn't the normal for the movies. It's not the normal yellow. And also there's very anime influences. That scene when she's on the motor,
yes,
the motorcycle thing. The music's very, I think it almost felt like it almost sounded like Japanese.
Yeah, the music sounds fantastic. Yeah,
but it was definitely non-traditional, or at least not traditional you would normally hear, but it also kind of fit the scene, of her character. And I think you can see there's extra influences as well, that kind of like, which I don't mind it if they're kind of like doing their own thing, as well as immersing us in that Star Wars universe.
All right, so we were talking about this lady, and then we also have the apprentice, you were calling her, Shin Hati.
Oh, Shin.
My bad. Shin Hati, Hati, however you want to pronounce it.
She's a goth hottie, if you know.
Yeah, played by Ivanna Sakhno. So far, doesn't say a whole lot, but is very apprentice-like, but also awesome. And
looks like the lead singer of Roxette, if you remember that band from the 80s.
You might be right. And of course we have Baylor.
Yeah.
And by the late Ray Stevenson.
Man, he's such an imposing figure.
He is. He's like 6'3" and just big booming voice. And
I absolutely loved his hallway scene where all he was doing was walking forward with his lightsaber like this. He wasn't even like,
they did have a hallway scene,
not even flexing or anything. Just it was so menacing.
He did get to use his hands a little bit and do the little throw you against the wall thing.
Mm-hmm. Or just unlocking things. He'd
unlock the thing. Yeah.
He's very good with the force powers. Like, he's man.
Yeah, the costume is fantastic. It gives a Vader vibe without looking exactly like Vader. I mean, I think the closest is maybe the wrist, the thing on his forearm, and then of course being all black. But he just, I don't know, he oozes cool and menacing all at the same time, and I love it. I love it. It's sad that we've lost him.
Yeah, and it will be interesting to see how the story plays out if his character lasts towards the end. It'd be kind of sad if we could have, if he lives beyond that, that he's his character, what they're going to do about that. But yeah, I think he's such an imposing figure, but also it's kind of good to see a character that's not really good or bad.
He's very neutral.
The gray Jedis, as they mentioned in some of the stories, and it's kind of, I'm really excited about that because we really don't get that. We haven't really gotten that into some of the live action stuff as much.
I don't think we've gotten into
Not at
live
all.
action at all. The only thing that I know of that's mentioned it is some of the books.
Yeah,
and even before then, it was like, it's only been like mentioned like in like 3 or 4 books post Disney acquisition. Before then, it was like, that's what the Jedi, there were the Jedi, there were the gray Jedi, and then there was Sith before Lucas decided to expand everything. So it's been since like the 90s that we've really, really explored the like concept of like a morally gray Jedi,
which is something, we always talk about, like, let's do some new stuff. I mean, that it's kind of weird how it's just either it has to be black or white, or they need to switch sides at some point. And it's kind of sad that it's taken this long for us to get to that level, because it's a whole new type of character that we need more of in the live action universe. And so it makes me kind of excited to see, especially when we have what is it, the Acolyte show coming out, and it makes me wonder if we'll get to see some gray Jedi in that.
Well, one thing I really like is Rey is bringing a lot of depth to the character. I mean, because every time he talks, you feel like he's struggling morally, right? You feel that he's fighting himself, and he's like when he talks about having to, toward the end of the second episode, when he knows that Ahsoka's coming and he's going to have to kill her. He's
not many of us left.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't want to do it, but at the same time, his answers are cold. But it's really interesting. It's quite complex character in just a few bits of dialogue that he's allowed. So really good. It just, oh man, it's great. Let's talk about some of our heroes. Let's talk about General Hera. They nailed this, didn't they, Christopher?
Agreed.
Yum.
They nailed it. Mary Winstead. Oh my God, Mary Elizabeth Winstead. She just did I don't know, like when she's like, I'm a general. I give you I give you authority, right? It's just that when she's trying to get that guy to open up the classified document, there's a playful authority to her that's really interesting.
Well, and there's moments where she's a hologram and she has more personality than the live action characters we've seen in other Star Wars properties.
That's true.
Because there's a scene where she has conversations with people, and it's almost, she might as well be in the same room, but she's a hologram. Like especially when she's in that hospital room with Sabine and stuff.
Yep.
But and so that I mean, she I mean, and again, it is, I mean, like we had issues like, oh my gosh, nobody could play Ahsoka, and now we have these characters. We have Sabine and her, and they really do a great job of representing those characters, especially older as well, showing the growth, showing the knowledge and experience of these characters, and we get to see her, like, when she's on the ship, when she's interacting with Chopper.
Yes.
Which is hilarious. One of my favorite moments. Because when Chopper does he almost does like a muscular pose when he does his thing. I laugh so hard because it's like, man, they're really having a lot of fun making Chopper work. But yeah, I think more than anything, this, every time we get one of these characters, and even though I've only seen snippets of the Heroes, a Rebel show, I can see they really did a great job of sort of like picking the right types of actors that can play these parts, and also working well to sort of bring them to life, with the Hera, the green, the contact lenses, all that stuff to make them look like the characters that we know and love. I think she is great,
I'd like to point out specifically and that Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka. I don't know if that's the next one you had pulled up as well, but you're talking about like really embodying the character and bringing the animated version to life. I thought she did so much better at being Ahsoka in these 2 episodes than the 2 episodes of Mandalorian where she was, or sorry, yeah, the 2 episodes of Mandalorian, because Boba Fett 2 was Mando 2.5, right?
No, that's just true.
Pretty
Yeah.
much.
So, she comes off less stiff and she comes off as more natural in these episodes, I think. And it feels like the transition from animated to live action was like perfect.
Yep. Yeah,
and you can say that about every character, every one of the main characters.
Yeah, I'm glad they gave her a couple of appearances throughout the Mando universe just to get acclimated to not only us to the character, but her to portraying the character. Because it's where physically she was all there, and I agree that it was perhaps a little stiff, but still loved it. But here she is spot on. I mean, from being, where she's using her force powers, putting her hand down and kind of getting whispers of the past to figure out what things are happening, which was a great use of power we hadn't seen her do yet. And then just the way she's quiet and thinks. I just love it because she has that body language when she does it. That's, straight from the character and the animated character. So yeah, she's fantastic. Fantastic. But then of course we have Sabine. This is after the haircut.
Although I liked her with the haircut too. But...
with the hair before the haircut.
Yeah, well, I like both, but yeah, I mean,
she does do her Akira move. You're right. When she slides,
she does that Akira bike slide. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because that just felt like, I feel like Filoni was like, I'm gonna do a little Akira reference in this moment.
But yeah, the whole thing, her because that's her introduction, is her speeding along that road, out of town, and it just it was so fun, full of energy. Introduce the character and give us, give new audiences, a taste of her rebellious nature.
Well, and with these 2 episodes, she has like one of the biggest arcs of all the characters.
Yep.
Because she realizes that, she's allowed her rebellious nature to sort of like make her disconnected from stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's caused, that map cube or whatever the newest map thing in Star Wars is that they seem to have a new thing for. She's kind of caused that to be lost and to go into the wrong hands. And so that makes you realize, well, maybe, she realizes that she's always blaming stuff on other people, but it comes down to her and her making a decision. What is she going to do with her life? I love that scene where she's with, what's David Tennant's robot? What's his name?
Huang.
Yeah. When he's with her, and he's like, basically puts her down, but uses it a way to encourage her. You're like, yeah, you're not as good as these other.
I love the reaction too. Okay. Not put off by it, but she's,
yeah. But I love that moment where it's like, okay. But also he says that, I forgot what phrase he uses, but he says that thing where, like, you're the one that has control over your life or making decisions, your life, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think she's great. Or even just some of the physical stuff that she does, and it kind of makes me kind of excited to see her sort of under Ahsoka's wing again and to see how that, I mean, with them all like coming together. It kind of makes me even more excited as to see what happens in the next few episodes. You know what? So I may end up binge watching Rebels.
There you go.
This weekend, because then now it's like I'm kind of like I need to learn more about these characters.
You got to learn why Ezra is so important to Sabine, because Ezra is such a good character, and like Doc, I'm so sad we didn't get a little more of Ezra.
They're not going to wait to the 8th episode, are they, to give us Thrawn and
probably
Ezra?
So the next Dave Filoni directed episode, I think, is episode 4 or 5, and I think that's the one that Thrawn and Ezra are going to be introduced in.
Although this may be a hot take, but that the guy playing Ezra seemed very stiff in that hologram thing, and maybe it's just him being a hologram. But I didn't see any kind of I didn't see any kind of real personality based on that. But again, maybe it's because it's a small thing, but that's my least favorite thing of everything in any of the episodes, because
he's also trying to replicate a hologram that was shown and recorded in animated form.
Oh, really? Okay.
Gotcha. So that's probably part of the reason why is that in the last episode of Rebels, he records that for Sabine, and we see it in animated form, and he's trying to replicate the mannerisms of animated Ezra.
So I do have a question for you, Slattman. The cat thingy.
Loath cat.
All right. Now it's there's a picture of it in the on the wall with the the cat's a part of it. Is this the same cat?
Probably not.
Okay. All right. I didn't know if the cat,
Loath cats are just kind of they're just there on Lothal.
Yeah, because there was 2 of them in the field when one like a ship flew by. So. But I didn't know if that was the same one and held significance if we're going to see it.
Yeah, the cats themselves are important. There's no specific cat that's important. If you see a wolf, though, that's important. Because that's probably Kanan.
Although I was wondering, does she have like a robot that feeds her cat when she's away?
She might.
Maybe you just left that cat willy-nilly.
With them on the Ghost.
Maybe that's why she's got to have a lot of cats. Whoops.
Cat lady.
Yeah, she's a cat lady. I don't know about any Easter eggs or anything. Christopher G. Moore usually do Easter eggs. I don't know if you've grabbed any, but I bet Slattman knows quite a few that appeared.
So I won't have a list as big as Christopher usually has. But most of the Easter eggs and stuff are just kind of callbacks to Rebels. I don't know. It's just kind of things like, so this is the first time that Lothal has been seen in live action. Before it was only seen in animated, so it's nice to see Lothal. Same with Loath cats. The place that Sabine is staying is the same place that Ezra called home when he lived on Lothal, up at the top of the communications tower. The governor was the governor of Lothal. His name is, I think, Ryder. He was a major character in Rebels at the very end of season 4, trying to liberate Lothal from the Empire.
And Clancy Brown played him live action and voiced him, apparently.
Yeah,
which is awesome. And Jai Kell is also a character that was from Rebels.
Probably.
And that was, I think, one of the pilots that they were chasing.
I don't know. It's just a bunch of stuff, little things like that. There's more. This isn't really an Easter egg, but it's more of a speculation. A lot of the High Republic books have been talking about hyperspace lanes and paths that you can take through hyperspace that are not charted, and it's a and people think that the path that was drawn in the map in the scene that where they Morgan, the Night Sister, uses her magic to show it in the like shrine altar thing, that's supposed to be a hyperspace path that's not charted.
And that's the one they're going to follow.
Probably, yeah, follow to get from galaxy to galaxy using hyperspace in their giant freaking hyperspace ring that you have to assume is going to go around a Star Destroyer to bring it back because it probably can't drive anymore.
Yeah, what is it called? Eye of
Sion.
Eye of Sion. What a great name. That's a perfect Star Wars name for it. Christopher, did you grab any Easter eggs?
I wasn't able to, a few of the places didn't drop their stuff until earlier today, so I wasn't able to watch. I mean, I think somebody mentioned like the Eye of Sion that that supposedly recalls the massive Super Star Destroyer size ship called the Eye of Palpatine, which is from an old novel called The Children of the Jedi. So they might have like pulled, because I think that's the thing about a lot of these new Star Wars properties, that they, even though we have all those books and stuff that they kind of made non-canon, they can always pull stuff from it all the time, and use it, to sort of be influenced, or even things like Thrawn and stuff. We end up getting characters from a lot of these things that we never thought we'd be able to see. Let's see. The scene where Shin Hati, when she's like trying to track Sabine, it's very similar to Darth Maul.
It did feel that way,
when he's tracking. So we get a little bit of that. Let's see. Get mentioned the HK droids, which we've had mentioned in other stuff.
Yeah, they talked about that. I love that dialogue between them and the red C-3PO character, and she was giving away all the goods.
Why didn't you file a complaint?
And then I suppose like if the corporate guy, when he names drops a bunch of droid model numbers in quick succession, he wasn't. They're all lifter droids. See, a CLL droid is a binary load lifter seen in the original Star Wars film, and IW-37 is a load lifter with a pincer arm, as seen in Revenge of the Sith. The HV-7 is an incredibly obscure pull from the Legacy era supplement to the old Star Wars RPG from Wizards of the Coast. The Legacy era consisted of a series of comics books set like 130 years after Return of the Jedi. So again, that deep trivia knowledge are thrown in just little pieces of dialogue that you don't really think about. You might have thought, oh, they just made that stuff up, but it's actually based on the stuff here and there that they.
I feel like that is like really an Easter egg and not necessarily a reference to something like from Rebels or something like that I was pulling out. Like, no, that's a true Easter egg. Like, that's a Easter egg.
I feel like who is it? Is it Pablo Hidalgo? Is he the guy that like the big Star Wars guy? But yeah, they got those people that go into that vault of knowledge, and these mega Star Wars nerds that know every little thing that's ever been made from Star Wars that's not even made in the movies, and just add those little Easter eggs in there and suddenly make them canon, which is the fun part of that. I think Filoni's been doing that for a while with the Clone Wars, and even integrating
Mando too, right?
Well, yeah, even integrating stuff like like I remember back in the day where there was that one extra toy, the Star Wars loader toy that they threw in the Mandalorian. So, so everyone's that's a cool thing, and I'm sure there's like a million other like specific references.
Well, the ghost shows up, right? So
the Phantom.
What I call
the ghost? The ghost yet?
So what's it? Okay, so explain the difference.
The ghost is the big ship. It's the Millennium Falcon.
Okay.
Right. The Phantom is a little ship that attaches to the ghost.
Okay,
And they can detach from it. And it's like big enough for like a person or like 5 people or so on the inside.
It's like a transport.
Yeah, it's like a small transport instead of like a big cargo ship. And the ghost is supposed to be like the Falcon, where it's like a bigger ship.
Yeah. So are we going to see the ghost? Are we just
Lego has a ghost set based on the Ahsoka show, so probably.
Sounds like, I mean, it makes sense, right? Because that's where everything's going to be. We mentioned, I think, that David Tennant also voiced Huang in the Clone Wars, but I did not know that Dave Filoni voices Chopper.
Yeah, he's always voiced.
I didn't know that. I never realized that. I never paid attention.
It's like how Jon Favreau voiced a droid in Mandalorian, right?
Yeah. But I swear I heard Chopper speak English at one point.
Oh, he almost does.
Well, a lot of those they have those sort of like voice modulators and stuff. It's sort of like BB-8, you know. A lot of that's just using things almost like the same things you use on guitars, where you can like, you know, you can turn your voice into like music. They kind of do that with a lot of these droid things, to where it sounds like they probably are saying like regular stuff, and you might catch a little bit thing here and there. And
there was one time after he got the tracker on the ship, on the transport, that I thought I heard him say actually a word or two. But
he probably did.
Which is great. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing Chopper fully realized, because right now we've only seen him in the little spot, the little droid spot, the astromech.
And I absolutely loved the banter between Hera and Chopper. It's like, no, I did not move your stuff.
Check under the battery.
Well, and I think that's he's like the most like grumpy, and I hate to say it, asshole-ish of the.
He is an asshole
of the droids, asshole, and I think it is kind of cool, because like, I don't know if you saw like a lot of the Star Wars event they had recently, where they actually brought like the droid out, and they actually have an actual droid that's made like that can do all the different. I don't know if he can do like the muscular move, but yeah, they can. It's. But I think also that's kind of fun to see them bring that, because I think of all the robots, he's like the most animated, you know, because he's very shaky and weird, you know, and so he's not like a lot of these things where it's just like, you know, like R2-D2, where just spins his head or something, you know, or just has little things that come out. But he's very much more animated and
full of personality.
Animated. Yeah. He's got, I mean, you know, and they always have to. That's the cool thing about droids in general. They're always trying to find ways to create personality if it's very stationary. So a lot of times they do it either with eyes or with certain types of things. You know, even like the Hera's droid companion or whatever. You know, he does things that the way he moves his head and stuff can sort of like create emotions just in that. But yeah, that
robot body language.
Well, and I think that's the one thing that was my biggest takeaway is these episodes of Ahsoka really do a great job of bringing the animated action and elements, you know, and characterizations that we know. I mean, because that scene where she's cutting holes in the floor felt like Bugs Bunny live action, you know, not in a bad way, but it just felt like, okay, well, only I felt like that's something you would see in the animated thing, but they probably wouldn't pull off in live action. And because they're pulling it off, it makes me very excited, because that's not stuff that we don't see as much, you know, and because there's almost like a playful nature to it that we don't see it. I think that's always been the problem sometimes with a lot of your lightsaber battles or whatever in the movies and stuff. It's very structured, you know, there's not a lot of playfulness to a lot of the stuff they're doing, you know. And it makes me very excited to see that, because then it makes me like, oh crap, what are we going to see next, you know? Or even some of the space stuff as well, you know, when they're fighting to get close to the thing to throw a tracker on, you know. There's also that sense of humor that I
But
really
there's also tension too. I was going to
Yeah.
say that the action sequence at the end of episode 2, when we have the two, Ahsoka's going off against what is it, Malar, something like that, and then of course Hera's going after the transport. It was so. I mean, I felt energized and riveted. I don't know if I've seen quite that depth of feeling the Star Wars action on the Disney Plus shows yet. I mean, there's Mando has it, but it's different. This was that sequence just felt full Star Wars to me and full high action. I loved it.
Mando feels very westerny, like old school westerny with its action. This feels very modern sci-fi with its action.
Much more space. Much more space. Yeah, much more space. Much more in the.
Well, it's more sci-fi serial as opposed to the Western, Kira Kurosawa stuff of Mandalorian, I think.
And this is not dissing on Mandalorian at all.
No. Well, that's the cool part of it. Is like you tell these different stories and you shoot for a different type of atmosphere or feeling, And I think also Mandalorian, a lot of this stuff is it's more situated on him as opposed to working as a group. And so I think when you can have two different action things that are happening at the same time and they're both on the same level of intensity, but also, there's also the element of humor with Chopper as well. And that, again, that feels like Star Wars. It feels like, with Han Solo's trying to shoot and he gets on Chewie for not fix it already, and things like that. That's the Star Wars that I know and love, because there's moments where there's sadness, there's moments of tension, there's moments of anger, there's all that, but there's all those moments of humor as well, and they really do a really great job of balancing that in this series so far. Because
and badass moves. Can we just say that Ahsoka has the best badass move when she just quietly steps out of the way of that one lightsaber coming back? It was just so, I don't know, it felt so effortless and so badass. Am I wrong?
Well, no, I feel like well, and I think any of those scenarios, I think if we'd seen any other, I think it's something like Kylo Ren would probably look back, it's like, so it's like, it was just like, it's a slick ass move right there.
It feels very much like something that if you've seen Clone Wars, Anakin from the Clone Wars would have done. Like just very smooth, very just like doesn't even bring attention to it. It's just
because she
like
doesn't
poetry,
even,
it rhymes.
She's looking at the character. She doesn't even break eye contact. It's amazing. It's one of my favorite shots. One last thing before we get in to wrap this up. Hayden Christensen is scheduled to appear as Anakin. How do you think they're going to handle that?
Flashback or alternate reality, like, because one of the themes hi cat, one of the themes of the show so far
hi Mark
is one of the themes of the show so far is Ahsoka doing the right thing, right?
Okay.
So my theory is that Ray Stevenson's character will confront Ahsoka, and it'll be like here's a premonition of what it would have been like if you didn't step away from the order, and it might have been with Anakin, her and Anakin together post during or post Order 66. I've also heard rumors that there might be a what if scenario where Ahsoka was the one fighting Anakin on Mustafar instead of Obi-Wan. But my guess is that's more likely than flashbacks, because they'd have to do a lot of de-aging on Hayden Christensen and Rosario Dawson to make it fit.
Do you think we might get Force Ghost?
That's one thing we could do, right? Force Ghost. We could get a dream sequence. We can get,
because that was an idea that was originally going to be in
Obi-Wan?
Like Force Awakens or something.
Force Awakens.
There was actually talk of them doing a Force Ghost, where it could either. I think they even mentioned doing I can't remember specifically, but almost like a different variations of that. But but I think we do well in the trailer. You do hear his voice, like he's giving advice to her.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I mean,
I'm all for it. I'm more Hayden Christensen, the better. He was fantastic in Obi-Wan Kenobi show.
But I mean, with the change in the prequels, he does show up as a Force Ghost.
That's true.
He could essentially, if he's helping. But I don't know. I don't know how like some Star Wars fans will feel about that.
I would be all for it.
I mean, I think the love that people have for Hayden Christensen now, I think any way they can incorporate him would be great. And I think because they've already kind of tried that in the past, a lot of times that's what happens with all these things. They tried something and they pulled it out and then it shows up later. It's like a lot of those old drawings from back in the original trilogy. It's like, oh, we never used this spider monster, so let's throw him in Mandalorian. So I think it's one of those things. It's like ideas are never kind of thrown away. They're just archived until at some point they can get that Star Wars librarian to pull them out and put them in something new.
Here's a look at Lucasfilm. Hey, Jim, you had that great idea back in 2012? What was it again? Force Ghost Anakin? Yeah, let's do that now.
Yeah. Although I feel like they talked about like there was like almost like a split Force Ghost of like the Sith version but I don't know if that would be. But yeah, I don't know. I would be okay with that considering they had that real connection, before he turned. It'd be interesting if she gets in a really dark spot and needs some kind of help and he shows up. I mean, there's a friend of mine on Facebook's like, let me know when Hayden shows up.
And that's it.
And I'll start watching.
Awesome. One last thing. I do have one more thing. Did we see the flying the space whales briefly in the clouds? Or did I imagine that? When it was Balon Skull that saw him. When he was at that 1 second.
I'm not sure. I know in the end credits they had whales.
Yeah. I mean, the Purgil are pretty important to what happened with Ezra and Thrawn. So it wouldn't surprise me if they are just kind of littered in the background.
Yeah, because we did see one briefly in Mando with Grogu seeing them right when they were going to hyperspace. So and it felt like that. And I don't know, maybe I was just like imagining it. But anyway, let's dive into. Let's close it up. Let's give our score. You can give a score on both together, or
I'm going to do mine both together.
Perfectly. And then I'd like to hear your favorite scene from each episode. But if you want to do just one, or if you want to break it up, we've done it before where we've done like the funniest scene and the best scene, or if you have that in your mind, I'd love to hear it. So all the pressure's on you, Slattman. Go for it.
For me, this is a 5 for the first 2 episodes. It's an amazing start. Emotions are probably pretty heavy into that 5 out of 5. If I had to be nitpicky, I'm sure I could find stuff to nitpick on, but at this point I don't care. It's a perfect it is a near perfect to perfect adaptation of these characters in live action that I love. So it's hard to mess it up when the characters are done so well. Because I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some stinkers episodes in Rebels, but I still love the stinker episodes in Rebels because the characters are what drives that show. And I'm hoping that Ahsoka is the exact same way.
Perfect. Perfect. Favorite scenes?
Yeah. So my favorite scene in the first episode is, oh gosh, it's probably the scene of Sabine solving the puzzle.
Oh, nice.
I really liked how that was just set up, and I don't know. I liked it. I don't know. I just liked it. And then my favorite scene in the second episode, sorry, I'm probably stealing both of yours, was any scene with Chopper.
Ah, nice. I love it.
Specifically the end when he was trying to find the tracking beacon.
Yes, and the way he threw it, he spun around. He spun around when he threw it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Steph Green, by the way, directed the second episode, and what a fantastic job. I mean, Dave Filoni did the first one, and that was beautiful. And you could see the tone was different slightly, but at the same time, it was perfect. All right, Christopher, you're up next. What's your scores and what's your favorite scenes?
I think I feel like this is almost like a movie them together.
It feels like it, doesn't it?
Really should have just edited it together as one. And be the pilot, but I'll say 5 out of 5. I think it's a great start to this series, and it makes me extremely excited for how the rest of the series plays out, and also just extremely excited to sort of binge Rebels and get some more of that sort of interesting details. As for favorite scenes, I will say kind of torn because I want to say a bad guy part, but
do it.
But at the same time, I kind of I don't know. I really love the Ahsoka when she cuts that hole.
Oh, you like that, yeah.
and then later on, she cuts holes and. And jerks those people down like a cartoon character, and I don't know. I just felt like I'm not sure we would ever see that in a live action movie. So, and that makes me kind of excited that maybe they're okay with doing something a little bit more out there and crazy. That feels at home if we were watching it in a cartoon in the animated series, but it just seems so. It just feels like if you replace her with Bugs Bunny, it would be the same.
Or Scooby Doo, right?
Or Scooby Doo, or just like I just feel like and I hate saying that because I feel like I'm making fun of it, but I just really love that because it's like because you wonder like how she can get out of the situation, and then she just dumps down and just like starts cutting holes left and right. It's just crazy. But it's a lightsaber scene I don't think we've kind of seen in live action. We've probably seen more of that in the animated series, and so because they can do a whole lot more. They don't have to worry about like backdrops. As for the second episode, I would say probably my thing is just Chopper going like this.
Yes.
That's just my favorite part. If I can't pick a Chopper scene, I will say. I don't know. I'll just pick the Balin skull when they put that map ball on the thing and just his conversations with his Padawan. I don't know. He's just it's interesting because I think he has this sort of like stature as a character that's like you're so absorbed when he talks, because he's very imposing, but he's also very soft spoken. You know what I mean? So far, yeah. But so I kind of like that the dynamics between him and it's like the more goth girl that's his Padawan and stuff. So I'll have to say that specific piece of that dialogue scene.
Goth assist. All right. For me, okay. A little controversy. I think you could argue that you could go for 7.5 or 8.5, but I'm going to go 5, and this is why. I had high expectations, and much like with the MCU right now, but also a high level of fear it's not going to live up, right? So you got that. I'm expecting to be really good, and then I'm fearing it's going to not. And it is very good and exceeded expectations. So regardless of any nitpick that I could have, it's going to get a 5 for me. Both, and this felt like Star Wars. It felt like a full movie. It's setting up the whole series. I'm looking forward to the rest. I'm already looking forward to more after, and we haven't even gotten through this one yet. So the realization of the characters, like you said, are just absolutely fantastic. Live action across the board, and love it. Can't wait for the rest. Can't wait to talk about the rest too. I'm so glad we're doing this. All right, my favorite scenes in the first one. I'm going to go with the Darth Vader air quotes hallway scene with Baylor and his Padawan as they are just annihilating people left and right, trying to break free our other character, which is what is her name again? Oh my gosh.
Isn't it Morgan?
Yes.
Something.
Yep, Morgan. And the whole scene of them going, it just felt, we've talked about like, the Darth Vader scene going down the hallway in the one movie,
Rogue One.
Yeah. At the end of that, it had that energy to it with these characters, and it just made me love them instantly, regardless of whether they're good guys or bad guys. It didn't matter. They're just really awesome characters, and they, just their body language, the way they move, the way it feels, how direct they are, just really fantastic. I loved it. The second scene is going to be the battle between Ahsoka and Marok on, while the ship's flying away, and it also has another one of the robots with the long sticks, the electric sticks or whatever they're called. And just the whole battle was so wonderfully realized. And so, I mean, even when, they're holding the sabers, you can see the little melty sparks coming off of them in different colors. And then of course, when he throws it and it comes back and the whole stance thing and her coming out of the dust cloud, to stand, it just, everything about that scene with her fighting there on the dock was just absolutely beautiful. It's one of the best saber fights, I think. It really was a lot of fun.
When he takes his cape off and
it just throws it down. Let's do this.
Like that's another badass bad guy.
Ahsoka stabbed the robot and then just drove the robot into
as a shield. Yes, it was awesome. I just thought it was a great battle. It was a great battle. Now the other battles were good too. Yuck. The other lightsaber battles were fine as well, but that one, oh my god, there was such an energy to it. It was just well done. Well done. All right, well there you go. That's our long-winded review of Ahsoka episodes 1 and 2. We'll be back in 2 weeks to do 3 and 4. I think we're going to do them in pairs this season, and we'll see how that goes. I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, please hit the like, subscribe, share with a friend buttons, because each little click will help more fans find us just like you. Chris Slattman, thank you for joining me. This was a lot of fun.
In the words of Chopper.
Yeah, slide a word in there somewhere.
The force is strong in this episode.
Yeah, yes. Oh yeah, when he goes, that did have a little bit of tear jerky to it when he says, the force be with you. All right, let's get out of here. Let's say good night.
Good night.
Good night.